Okay, today's 11-2 Pythagorean Theorem. Most, if not all of you, have done Pythagorean Theorem many times, okay, but we're going to go over it again. Okay, for those of you who maybe don't remember, it's the formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you have to remember this is only for right triangles, only. Okay? So, and the things you need to remember, if you have a right triangle, okay, this is the hypotenuse across from the right angle, and it's always C. Okay, the other two sides are interchangeable. They're both called legs, and they're either A or B. Okay, and it doesn't really matter, but in this formula, it's A and B are the legs. Okay, so A squared plus B squared equals C squared, where A and B are the legs, and it doesn't matter which one's which. Okay, but C always has to be the hypotenuse. It's always across from the right angle. Always, always, always. Okay, so let's do a few examples. Okay, so if we have a right triangle and we have 9, 12, and then C, and this could be X, it doesn't have to be C, but as long as you know you're looking for the hypotenuse, okay, and remember our formula is a squared leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Okay, so this is going to be 9 squared, and it doesn't matter the order because you're adding. 12 squared equals C squared. So 81 plus 144 equals C squared. Okay, so 225 equals C squared. So just like before, how do we get rid of that squared? We take the square root. And since we're dealing with length, you don't have to do plus or minus because you're not going to have a negative length. Okay, so C equals 15. So the hypotenuse is 16. Is 15 on that one. So the length of the hypotenuse is 15. Okay? Okay, so what if it's written in words? What is the length of the hypotenuse? I'm just going to put height. With legs 7 centimeters and 24 centimeters. Okay, so you can draw it out if you want, or you just know that these are legs, so those are going to be your A and B. So you can do 7 squared plus 24 squared equals, and I'm just going to make it X to show you that it doesn't have to, they don't have to actually put a C in there. So 49 plus 576 equals X squared. This 625 equals X squared. Then we have to take the square root. So X equals 25. Okay, and they're not always going to be perfect squares, but just on those first few examples they are. Okay, now what if they give us the hypotenuse? Okay, so this is number 3. The hypotenuse is 13. One of the legs is 12, and we're looking for the other one. Okay, so again, now we don't know what one of the legs is. So X squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. So the other ones, you squared it and added them and then took the square root. Here, we're going to have X squared plus 144 equals 169. Okay, now this just becomes a two-step equation. We need to subtract 144. So X squared equals 25. Okay, then now we take the square root. So X equals 5. So the leg equals 5. So when you are given the hypotenuse, you're actually going to subtract. And the hypotenuse is always the largest side, which we'll get to that in just a second. I'll do another example of that. Okay, so on another one where the hypotenuse is given. So we have 10 and 7. Okay, and then X or Y or whatever the variable is. So now we have X squared plus 7 squared, and that, it doesn't have to be that way. You can put the 7 squared first. It does not matter. equals 10 squared. So x squared plus 49 squared equals 100. I'm sorry, not 49 squared. Take that away. We already did 49. Subtract 49. X squared equals 51. Okay, well 51 is not a perfect square, so you're going to get a decimal. If it says an exact answer, you would leave it. Okay, but for now you can just make it into a decimal. So x equals 7.14. Okay? Okay, so now there's called the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So what that means is if you're given three sides, you have to say, is this a right triangle? So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then these sides form a right triangle. Not just any triangle, but a right triangle. It has to fit this. And C is always the longest side. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. Okay? So determine whether the given lengths are they right triangles? If they're 5, 12, and 13 are my three sides. Well, I know that 13 is my hypotenuse because it's the biggest. 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. So 25 plus 144 equals 169. Does the left side equal the right side? Yes, it does. So you would say, yes, this is a right triangle. Okay. Now, if you have one that's 7, 9, and 12, so these are the three sides of our triangle. If we were to write it out, and we're questioning if it's a right triangle or not. So you would do 7 squared plus 9 squared equals 12 squared. So 49 plus 81 equals 144. 9. So 130 does not equal 144, so you would say no, that is not a right triangle. Okay? Now, the last thing we're going to do is a word problem. Okay, but they're not necessarily difficult. Okay, you just have to draw the triangle. We're dealing with right triangles. So, a man walks 3 miles due east, which means they're just going straight east. Then 4 miles due north. How far is he from the beginning? From his starting point. How far is he from his starting point? Okay, so the way we would do this is you say, well, east, and we're just going to do the normal, okay, north, south, east, west. So if he's going east for 3 miles, then he goes due north for 4 miles, then it's basically saying, what is the diagonal here? Oops, we're going to change it. The picture does not fit, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, so then we're trying to find the hypotenuse. So 3 squared plus 4 squared equals x squared. And you could have put the 4 squared first. It's fine. So 9 plus 16 equals x squared. 25 equals x squared. Take the square root. X equals 5. So that is what x is. And again, you don't have to do the negative because we're dealing with actual length, so it can't be negative.